Yemo bibi akwaba. Lawyer Martin Kpebu private legal practitioner. Na owe he's one of nkrofo a omo advocating for say omo any the office of the special prosecutor no emfi honum because osusu say a useless institution e wo honum keke. Owura ye frɛ no Solomon Owusu enso director of communications edema UP plus yura Alan Kojichirmantin the new party na abano United Party sansuna Zaato Dr. Zaato so one of the ebeka say political analyst omukasa and anytime omu make argument they make it in favor of MPP omu clash on King Ofori ninsensem enya no nko a Manase Zuri enso fourth estates then member ono nso akasa yenti nse ni biabusua mesro so do comment betum na wa like na wa share yenkoti Alfredo Kansi the show no so key points TV3 yenti nse ni bi
even know Kisi Ejabin. That's to say that Kisi Ejabin never contacted him to help arrest Ofori Atta. Then I checked with the current heads, that's the institution, NIB. They've written formally to me that, and I'll read a portion. The National Intelligence Bureau did not receive such a request from the office of the special prosecutor.
Well, the special prosecutor said they didn't write to them. That's the response.
No,
I just read.
Yeah, so he's now shifting the goalpost. You can hear him in the tape with his 32 teeth that NIB didn't cooperate, national security didn't cooperate, etc. So it's too late. Sami Daku is trying to rationalize everything. He knows that his fortunes hang on Kisi Ejabin's fortune. Once Kisi Ejabin is going, Sami Daku has to go. You see, so he's making every effort to rationalize this barefaced lie. We've caught him. Look, we've caught him. The head of our anti-corruption body cannot lie to Ghanaians and expect to go scot-free. He has to leave. Look, he's not the only lawyer. Look, even his deputy, Cynthia Lamte, is by far his senior at the bar. Kisi Ejabin is not the only lawyer in Ghana.
So you say you checked with
it's what? It's not as if we did any national test and Kisi Ejabin came tops. Kisi Ejabin got that office because of his closeness.
You say you checked with which institutions?
Oh, National Investigative Bureau, the NIB. This is a letter dated 27th November 2025. Look at it. It has whose signature I don't want because it's an intelligence institution. I don't want to put out the letterhead.
You wrote to them asking what exactly?
Yes. With Dennis, your colleague here, Dennis Kpebu helped me to write the letter. Yes, I wrote formally, making enquiries. You want me to read my letter? No. I can read my letter, making enquiries that the special prosecutor come there for help to arrest Ofori Atta. And he said, no, maybe I can read portions. Look, okay. He said, I write pursuant to Article 21, 1F of the Constitution 1992 and the Right to Information Act 2019, blah, 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 to request the following. 1. Whether the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, has at any point in time formally requested the assistance. So you see, I said requested, not just writing. Okay? Requested the assistance of the National Intelligence Bureau to arrest former Minister for Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori Atta, and then other questions asking for the details. And they responded, none. None. So look, we've caught Kisi Ejabin for this singular lie alone. I mean, we all make mistakes. When the heat started coming, if you had come back immediately to say, oh, look, my brothers and sisters, it's a slip, would have taken it. We all make mistakes. Look, I go to court, sometimes you quote a wrong law, the judge will correct you. Sometimes you go to the High Court, counsel is here. Maybe the High Court judge also gets it wrong. You go and appeal, it's corrected. Even the Supreme Court, they make mistakes. So please, don't make that mistake. I'm not pontificating as if I know everything and everything turns around me. No. If you thought that, look, what you said was an error, immediately come. But you see, he's digging himself in. It's terrible. The head of our Anti-Corruption Agency cannot lie to citizens like this and keep that office.
Let's look at the other part of the response. I just want you to, because it says the matter of the stop list that Manasseh put out is in his view immaterial because it involved an extradition process, which is fundamentally different from the routine stop list mechanism.
No, listen. That's actually Sami Dako cannot. I mean, it's not as if he's a super lawyer. We heard Kisi Ejabin. You played it. Kisi Ejabin said that when Ofori was about to travel, Ofori wrote a letter, correct? And that the letter was went to both the current chief of staff and the outgone chief of staff. Then he said he intercepted the letter, meaning he got a copy by whichever means, and sought to prevent Ofori from traveling, which presumably meant that he was going to arrest him. So there is no issue of any extradition. Sami Dako cannot obfuscate matters. It's too late in the day. Kisi Ejabin was not talking about extradition. It has nothing to do with extradition. He said he intercepted the letter, then went to NIB, didn't get help. National security didn't get help. Immigration didn't get help. Can you imagine bastardizing state institutions? So you see how NIB has been quick to remove its mouth from this matter, because you can't have a special prosecutor just sit down and run down government institutions. And you think this is a small matter. You run down other government institutions without basis. So look, it has nothing to do with extradition. Kisi Ejabin was not talking about extradition. He said he intercepted the letter and then sought to prevent Ofori from traveling. That's why even further went on and said that Ofori's cousin, that's the president. I don't use the word cousin. In Chi, there's no word for cousin. It's brother. Okay, brother. Okay. So Ofori's brother is a Kufuado. And so what do we expect? The words are too clear. Look, we are not kids. We don't even need to be a lawyer to understand this. Kisi was just lying, barefaced lie.
Now there's been cooperation now from the various security agencies, as was the case previous, or as against the case previously. There's been improved cooperation now.
Yes,
that's also captured in the
That's
statement.
Neither here nor there. We don't need that. He has already lost the plot. We don't need that. For coming to lie and not responding immediately that, oh, I'm sorry, it's a slip. It means that it was deliberate, because he's digging himself in through the rationalization Sami Dako is doing. Look, it's good riddance, because anybody looking at following Ghanaian politics would have known that, you see, he who the gods want to kill, they will first make mad. If you want to tackle anybody, is it me, Kpebu, you are coming to tackle? You know that we will not let this matter die. So it's just God that made them blind, and then they said I should come and brought the matter back to the fore. And you see, this raises the other issue we raised earlier on today. This thing about the Ghanaian being timid, being docile. Look, it will hurt us too much. We don't have to wait till the next election. This is a matter that elsewhere, by now, we would have massed up in front of the office of the special prosecutor to say, look, he should leave that office immediately. This is even a matter that, properly speaking, it should attract a commission of inquiry under Article 278 of the Constitution. Well, your special prosecutor runs down the immigration service, runs down national security, runs down the National Intelligence Bureau, and we think that is kosher. Such a man is not fit for the office. Well, is he the only lawyer? Did he write an exam? Did we write an exam so that he topped, and so that's how he got the office, and so we think that he's the most intelligent? No, it's because he's associated with a Kufuor's regime.
After this interview by the special prosecutor, and as Adam said on this, there's been further responses from the office. If I say further responses, at least what we've seen from the office within the week, giving some further, would the demand of coming to the public, updating the public about this earlier than now, have made any difference at all from what you say?
Not too clear on the question. The demand to come earlier on which issue?
On the challenges he was facing at the time when Ofori was leaving the country, even though he was aware. If we gotten to know earlier than now, how much of a difference would that have made?
Well, thank you. Let me first put in context that I've been following the exchanges, and the more information I've had on both sides, I think that there is a communication gap.
There's a communication gap.
Yeah, I think that the lawyers are looking at the minimum threshold of what amounts to criminality and trying to make sure they get to a certain point before they say this is a case. And sometimes their feedback to Manasseh is couched in that kind of context. And I think these two groups probably need to sit down and have a discussion. For many of us, we are clear that the OSP should stay focused and deliver the mandate we gave to that office. My memory of the chronology tells me that it would not have made a difference because, you see, when Ken applied on health grounds, and prior to that, a number of us had been in the Ministry of Finance where they were doing the projections on Ejapa, etc. And he participated in that meeting. I remember I was with Kofi Bentel and Franklin Kujo from Mayo Clinic. So we knew there was some health issue, but we were in the conference room of Ministry of Finance and this was going on. And so when these issues came up, many of us felt that the SP should to be more human, more responsive. Allow the man to go and do his health check. This is a Ghanaian at a very high level. He should come back and answer. That's accountability. That's leadership. So in my view, I don't think it will have made any difference. I think this is much ado about nothing, a storm in a teacup. I think let's focus on the important issues. We have a country to build. I don't see how, in fact, maybe you need to play that tape back to me. I don't see how that becomes the basis of asking for the removal of the special prosecutor. I probably need much more compelling evidence. So this is not an issue I want to belabor too much. I think that let's move on.
I see. But then, in the response of the special prosecutor, he did indicate that Ofori Atta gave an assurance that anytime he is needed, he would make himself available. That was the assurance he gave to the incoming chief of staff and the outgoing at the time of his departure, which you referenced the meeting, right, that you were privy to. But looking at the play of events, right from that day of the assurance till now, should there have been enough currency put on that assurance, especially because of the person and then also the circumstance around which he was living?
I think that we must take we should take ourselves at face value. I think it would be unfortunate if we began not to be able to say our leaders make a promise and we hold them to their promise. There may be extraneous factors that have led to where we find ourselves today. But if you choose to lead, you must be accountable. And that's the first thing all of us must understand. And if we are not grooming ourselves to understand that, then that's a shame. In other cultures, people don't even need to make a hue and cry for it to say, I resign, or I am going to face, accept on behalf of the company that I should be held accountable. And perhaps we are losing that or missing that in our society. I think that it was all right for them to expect that he will come back. I think that his family, his lawyers have a duty of care to all of us to make sure that he comes back. And I think that no Ghanaian should accept, political office if you're not willing to be accountable. That makes me very uncomfortable. So I don't begrudge the OSP or any of the other actors for saying that, okay, we let you go, especially in the context that this man had a health condition. It was not something that was fabricated, And so to that extent, I think that at this stage, Mr. Ken Ofori Atta should be called upon. If he's finished his treatment, if he's in a better condition, we want to know about that. He should come back and answer the questions that he ought to be answering. And let's make sure that our governance systems work for this country.
Well, you see, Dr. Joseph Zaato, this is coming at a time when a lot of questions are being asked of the special prosecutor because of the element of accountability. Because there's a number of cases at play right now that Ken Ofori Atta will have to come and answer. Prime being the SML deal, which the special prosecutor himself has said that he is the chief architect of it. which is a subject of major investigation. Now, he stated that, well, and I knew he was leaving. I couldn't get the support of the security agencies. I have it now. We couldn't put him on a stop list because it's a routine and it is different from an extradition process. Is there any assurance of a physical appearance of Ken Ofori Atta anytime soon?
I don't know. And I don't think it matters to me. And I honestly don't care about that particular one. My position on accountability and being held accountable for office is clear. I have advocated and I continue to advocate regime accountability and post-regime accountability. I have said that any man or woman who takes an oath to hold an office must know that a day will come, he or she will also have to raise the hand to take an oath to be held accountable for that. And I've said that if a sitting president is unable or unwilling to hold his or her own appointees to account, it is completely fair and okay for another regime to come in and hold them accountable. So long as their fundamental human rights, the things the lawyers talk about, right to counsel, presumption of innocence, so long as all that is held, I have no problem. I will never sit anywhere and try to make it look like, oh, this person should not be held accountable. No. Accountability is a cornerstone of democracy, and we must be seen, not only to be seen, we must actually make sure that people, powerful people, who occupy powerful positions are held to account for their actions or actions, whether in office or out of office. I have absolutely no problem with that. Two, when it comes to OSP, I've also advocated my problem. One, I've said that that office has to go. I said that that office has outlived its usefulness. And I've said that if you do a very common value for money audit analysis of that office, and you look at how much money resources we put in that office, and then you want to say how much have we got for it as a nation, we are making a loss and we could make it a loss. And I've said that we should scrap that office completely, and the money that we were supposed to use to run that office, we should add it to the money for the big push. We should add it to the money for the 24-hour economy. We should use that money to help make the Tumu town roads. We should send some of that money to Tumu market, to Techima market, all the place, and give it to the buffer stock to buy the excess maize, the excess beans, the excess rice. Put some money in the pockets of people so that they can spend Christmas. There are better ways to spend that money than to keep spending it in that place. I've also said that. And I want to be clear, and I'm still mean that because that office has outlived its usefulness, not there. Three, but there's something from a managerial position that you hear. It is something that the OSP office has been saying. Martin Amidu said it, and you are hearing it from the current occupant. This lack of cooperation with others. I don't know whether it is real or they are making it up, or they are manufacturing it. Either way, there seem to be a situation where both seem to be claiming they do not have cooperation. And I ask the question, why don't you have the cooperation? You see, cooperations like this are earned. Sometimes like respect. It's earned. It's not demanded. If you are the OSP and you need, for instance, the CID, that respect you need from the CID is not something that can just be the law may just go as far as saying cooperate with the CID. But for you to be able to pick a phone, call somebody at the CID, and that person will put everything down and give you the file you want, it depends on the respect you're able to build with that person. If you are the OSP and you need cooperation with immigration, with NIB, with everybody, the people that do not owe you, if they can delay, maybe you want it ASAP, and they will say it's not ready. But if you also have very good managerial and interpersonal relationship with them, you could call them today and they will suspend everything and make sure you get the file you want. So there seems to be something lacking in that office, especially if you have both the current and the former one all talking about the lack of cooperation from other state agencies. Either way, I am personally happy right now that these cases are before court. I am happy that right now these cases have gone to court. Let us go to court and try to get these monies back. Let's try to go to court and try to establish accountability. Let's go to court, because the court will then let us know whether these issues we are making, whether they are real or they're just pumped up. The court will let us know whether crimes were committed, and the courts will determine the consequences. If the courts rule and find people guilty, I think that from where I'm sitting, it's easier to say that, okay, Mr. A has been found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. This country extradite that person. I think that is a fast and easy way. So long as it is possible under the Guardian law, and I think, Martin, you said that, and I think for you to try somebody in absentia, let's go ahead and do that. for me too, I'm also praying that we do that now so that we don't get to a situation where when there's power changes and a new person comes, the issue is nolle prosequa, and then all these monies we are talking about are flushed down the drain. The cases is now before court. Let's go to court. Let's try these issues so that the talking is no, because I don't want us to, this is now turning into a shouting match. It is now turning into a talking game. It doesn't, no. The cases are in court. Let's go to court. Let's put the facts on the table. Let the people have the right to defend themselves. Let the state have the right to make its own case. At the end of the day, when people are found guilty, they should be punished appropriately. And at the end of the day, if they are not found guilty, their names should be restored and they can go ahead with their lives. I think that is where we've gotten to. And that is the position I want to take. Let the courts decide. Let the fate of this people, which is now in the hands of the state and the court, be decided and let it go. And then we can also then ask ourselves, so far I've not seen that. If one company, SML, is accused to have done all these things, what are we doing as a country, as a nation, to make sure that we don't have another SML in the future? What are we doing? What laws are we? Intelligent people are going to sit down, they are going to come up with various intelligent people are going to sit down, they are going to come up with various ways of doing businesses. Are we doing enough to make sure that maybe 2 years down the line, 3 years down, 8 years down the line, we don't come back to another issue? Are we doing enough? The Internal Audit Agency, is it doing enough to make sure that we do not come back to a similar situation down the line? Ghana Audit Service, are they doing enough to make sure that we do not come here? Ministry of Finance and their other regulatory agencies, are they doing enough to make sure that down the line tomorrow we don't get up and hear that another company led by my brother here Mr. Sohede has also come up with something like this, or by another company led by Solo. As also, if you get, you go give me some make a chop, right? You have, so that one I would talk. But as a country, we have to be worried about these things because it's not going to stop. But now there are people sitting somewhere cooking figures, thinking about smart, intelligent business plans to come. My point is that the real rules, the guard rules, the people, the men and women who are supposed to be protecting the public space, are we making sure that they are well trained, they are well protected, they are well paid, and they have the right tools to make sure that similar things do not happen in line? I wish we could all sit down here and say, Ghana, we will never see a similar thing like this. But we cannot all say it. So please, let's go back to that. Unless and until we do that, look, one of the things that we were talking about was these leakages in the financial sector. Have we done enough, and are we doing enough to protect? Because this may be a leakage, in this could have been a leakage in the finance sector. Have we done enough? Are we doing enough to make sure that similar ones don't happen? Let's, the CLÄSH will say that we shouldn't look at where we hit, we failed, but we should look at where we hit our leg. Where did we hit our leg? Where did we go wrong? And what are we doing as a nation? Are we rising up to the occasion to make sure that we do this? If we do not do this, Alfred, I'm afraid we'll come back to this one day again, and they will ask us, what did we learn?
But you see, there's a question that you're asking, which I want to bring in Solomon also on this. Whether or not it was indeed the case that the special prosecutor was actually truly facing any challenges in stopping Ken Ofori-Atta, or these are issues that the office makes up. That's a question that Dr. Zaato asks. But to authenticate this, you've had a further layer of Martin Kpebu going to at least one of the many, is it not?
Yeah, I've got the three, so the other two are yet to respond.
Also, you've asked questions of the immigration, and then also national security. Yeah. So which one responded to you?
This is National Intelligence Bureau.
NIB is what responded
former
to you.
BNI.
How do we authenticate that this was indeed the case, that there were really challenges that could not help him do what he was supposed to do?
Alfred, before I proceed, let us be clear here. This issue, people are trying to generalize it. When it's about Ken Ofori-Atta, so let's all think about corruption. It is Ken Ofori-Atta. Let's discuss it. And the OSP and his actions. And I wasn't too sure what my brother Adam was saying, that we should move on. This is a serious matter. In fact, if we are going to move on and leave Ken Ofori-Atta's case, then we must know, nobody must talk about corruption in this country. I'm telling you, because until this administration, this current government take the issue of Ken Ofori-Atta and take it seriously, nobody will take this government serious. Then the whole issue of ORA would have crumbled, And nobody in this country must waste our ears with corruption. Because we are talking about a man who led this country in terms of managing our affairs, led us to borrow $13.5 billion, led us to invest $97 million into a hole, led us into an SMA deal, and we are talking about what? Then there is no need in discussing corruption again. Ken Ofori somewhere during the erstwhile administration, where 80 members of his own party went to parliament and said that he has to be removed. Beyond that, board joined. They cited incompetence and also held grounds. He told us that he was fit. He was ready to die for this country. He was ready to die for this country. And I don't even understand this business of people saying that he wrote to the old chief of staff and the incoming chief of staff. As of the 2nd of January, we had only one chief of staff in this country. Who was our incoming chief of staff?
So there was a transition process.
No. You see, unless until you have been given the power, as of the 2nd of January 2025, President Akufo-Addo was still in position. So there couldn't have been two chief of staffs. He wrote to his chief of staff, Femo Opare, and was granted. And the OSP did nothing. Absolutely nothing. This business of really sugarcoating that office, I'm even surprised he's still drawing salaries from the state.
What do you mean by
it's a total waste of everybody's time.
With all the achievements.
What have they achieved? What?
They put out a list of...
No, you see, the last time he came to tell us that he has flashed 10,000 ghost tapes from
yes.
Hey, so OSP is supposed to prosecute. They don't even respect our intelligence.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
You have gotten 10,000 people as being ghosts. Did you hear him prosecute any one of them? Because these ghosts, they have bank accounts that every month the monies go into it, then they withdraw. Ghosts, do they withdraw monies? Is it not human beings? That should have been a starting point in investigating, assuring the nation that he was doing something. When they put up something there for all of us to just go up like that as mumu, we are not mumu in this country.
You said even with the SML, some 2.7 billion.
He has no, you see, we shouldn't even, when you do that, when you give credits, when you do that, you see, that you belittle our intelligence. I've said that he has to leave the office. He has no business whatsoever. I keep telling you, the very day that he did that press, was it a press conference or so, that he said, I'm Kwanoma, may they make a crab out for it. He should have resigned. Yeah. But what he was telling her was that he has lost faith in the system. He couldn't deal with the system anymore. So just leave. And then we move on. You understand? Ken Ofori came to tell us that through his lawyers that he was returning back to this country somewhere May. That position was affirmed by Fenyo Marcus. We were that sure. Are we not in November? When is he going to come? In fact, the very reason why he left this country must be the reason why we must bring him back. He said he was going for health checkup. Is that not the case? If you are a finance minister and you were in charge of my purse, instead of helping to invest our monies into building state-of-the-art health facilities so that you and I, ordinary Ghanaians, when we are sick, we could go there. You came to mess us up, and when you felt you were sick, you are going to Mayo, the most expensive hospital, one of the most expensive hospitals in the U.S. Come and explain to us how we ended up destroying our financial fiber. You say you won't come. Today, as we speak, they are shifting the goalpost. Ken Ofori is sitting somewhere chilling, and we are discussing semantics, OSP versus Martin Kpebu, because Martin raised issues. And let me say that, look, if the OSP and his people are thinking that it's only Martin that is not happy with them, then they must be mistaken. They must be mistaken.
So whatever disagreements between Martin Kpebu and the OSP is only benefiting Ken Ofori.
That is it. That is, it's part of the strategy. They want us to forget about the real issue of the corruption. I am not interested in whatever English you write. All that I'm interested in is that Ken Ofori was given a mandate, and that our monies are not adding up. Come and explain to me. You are here writing English, and they want to play with our minds. We are very much focused on this matter, that he must be brought back. And I believe that this administration must also not be toying with us. Whatever it will take for them to go and bring him, they must do that. If the OSP is diligently with the issue, they should just push him aside.
There's an extradition process in place. They say that the Attorney General is aiding in the process.
The last time, did you hear the Attorney General speak?
To get it done.
Bring them the file, it was even a matter.
They sorted out the...
So they should move, but that's why I said the Attorney General must come in I trust the Attorney General's office more than the OSP. The OSP will not take us anywhere.
The OSP has stated that the AG's office is doing what you are
I
saying.
want to hear from inconsistencies, a lot of them. He says that he discussed rather security agencies, yet they allowed him to go. Now it is turning out that was not the case. And so how do you expect you to trust him? I want to listen to the Attorney General on this matter, and they must do this country that great service by telling us what exactly is happening. Because some of us want to see Ofori in this country.
Want to see him in person.
In person, but he was the finance minister in person. He was not leading the finance ministry in absentia. He was not doing Zoom meeting with us when he was the finance minister. Come back and respond to us as a country.
Well, but he has been charged now. He's not in the country physically. He has been charged.
You see, there was a precedent that was set that in those days, I said that we were heading into abyss with the said enough Temako. When judgments are giving, people run away and go and sit somewhere, that is what is going to happen. Now, Ken has also followed. He has issues to answer here. He's living somewhere. The next time, somebody will just come and see the entire monies of this country and go and live. Is that the way we want to build this country? So please, Ken Ofori test matter is as important as, in fact, it's the most important matter in the corruption issues. And until we deal with it constructively, you can dedicate the rest of the years discussing Ken Ofori. We will not move on if that matter is not sorted. And the OSP cannot shortchange anybody. And nobody should bring semantics and try and create the impression that it's a trivial matter. It's a serious matter. It's a serious matter because my tax was paid. As a business, even when you cannot pay, you are forced to pay. And when we give you all these things to manage it well, and it's time for you to come and account to us, you say what? SML, he must come and explain to us. But does it not even give you that impression? You see, it's a shame that a minister of finance has run away from the country. And people are thinking that
you say it's not well.
No, he's very well. He's very well.
Medical.
Have you ever seen him ever since he told that he was not well? We had a whole clinic called Mayo. If you don't know who was there issuing letters, we never spoke to anybody there. Fake letters they were bringing.
How do you
I dare them to let the person outside speak.
Do you have evidence to support?
I don't have any evidence that it was also signed by the Mayo Clinic.
So then why do you say it's fake?
It is fake because nobody knows. We have faceless people issuing letters. Along the line, from the Mayo Clinic, we have some people calling themselves family members who issued a statement. At the end of the day, they just only signed family members. Who are the family members of Ken Ofori? A lot of things have happened in between. You can have about 1,000 members of a family. Who signed it? You want to know who signed it? Then they chickened out. Then the wife came in. Now look, the man was not well. What is this that we are? What is it about Ken Ofori that we cannot confront it? And that is where I agree with Martin. The timidity levels in this country, we have a lot of timorous souls. But if we are going to behave like this, we will continue to have politicians play with our minds. We will continue to have politicians still. If it was to be used to develop this country, if you have done something and say, come and answer. And you are telling us, at a point he said you could do Zoom meeting. Which help was you going to use to do the Zoom meeting? You were not well. As for Zoom meeting, then you can do it. You can set up a camera on yourself, sit behind the PC and answer audibly all questions. Just fly to Ghana within 12 hours and come and do that. You can't do that.
So, you see, I listened to Adam Sanano and says, you know what, I mean, he wants to confront the reality of the situation that at the time the gentleman we're talking about wasn't well. And so whatever assurance he gave also had that particular medical situation underlying it, that, you know, anytime you need me, I will come. Should we have put any currency on that, or some other measures should have been put in place to ensure that beyond that assurance, we will not be at this point?
Good morning to you once again and our cherished viewers, as well as my colleagues in the studio. You see, Alfred, first of all, I condemn any form of commentary that seeks to belittle the effect of what we are discussing, especially relating to the office of the special prosecutor and the occupant of that office. The Ken Ofori experience is but one of the many concerns that Ghanaians are beginning to raise when it comes to the functionality of that particular office and its relevance. And for me, this bit about Ken Ofori actually being sick, and so there shouldn't be any fuss about it, is quite strange, to say the least. Strange because we are talking about a man who had the opportunity by presidential appointment to be finance minister for close to 7.5 years. Within that period, we woke up one beautiful morning, in fact, one worrying morning, to the news that he was unwell in the US, with visible signs of actual health conditions. The gentleman, like Solo indicated, even after his own party people demanded for his removal, still found time, flew back to this country, and continued his role as finance minister. Interestingly, even after he was let go, he stayed in this country throughout, only to decide to leave when a new government was about to take office. And we do not think that even the timing of his decision to leave Ghana raises serious questions for us to want to ask those questions on. And if people are asking those questions, we should give him the luxury of time to stay in the United States of America and decide when he wants to feel it is timely for him to come to Ghana to come and answer questions. Is that how we run a state? This is worrying. And this kind of logic is strange and unacceptable. You see, Alfred, when we are talking about the OSP, people may miss the point. One of the fundamental reasons we were told we needed out of this had to do with instilling credibility and integrity into our democratic space. And so when we wake up and we begin to have issues about that institution that was set up to pursue these objectives, and we begin to see that even within the internal workings of that institution, there are issues of credibility and integrity, we should be worried. First of all, I am not excited about the conduct of Kisi Ajebong, especially who I got the name right, as special prosecutor. And I will tell you why.
Why?
First of all, this is a gentleman who appears to raise issues of credibility and integrity more than any occupant of that office.
What do you mean?
Alfred, when the Deputy Attorney General engaged the press and indicated to us that that office had written to the Chief of Staff demanding extradition of Ken Ofori Atta, and they decided to engage, they were meant to furnish his office with the full docket of the Ken Ofori Atta case to enable them process the extradition processes. We were told that, look, the Office of Special Prosecutor decided to drag his feet. They were not cooperating. That was the word. But because he was Deputy Attorney General, he had to be diplomatic in his choice, unlike the Special Prosecutor who is accusing all state institutions of not cooperating with him. He said they couldn't engage to get the docket out. The gentleman informed all of us that they were almost done and in the process of giving the docket to the Attorney General. And the simple question we needed to ask then was that, so what informed the basis of the letter that was written to the Chief of Staff to seek the intervention of the government to support the extradition processes if you were not done with the documentation that would inform that extradition? What were you doing? That is the first question. And when we were on it, political as he is, that was the time we started asking issues of accountability relating to that office. He threw us a bone. He proceeded to address a press conference and make public the SML report, if you remember, seeking to deflect attention. Yeah. And we bought into that bid as a republic. So he walked away freely. Quite recently, one senior counsel, Martin Kpebu, began putting the spotlight on their internal operations. And Ghanaians followed that trail by beginning to ask questions. What did he do? Characteristic of that particular office, he proceeded once again to release a press statement indicating that he had filed charges against Ken Ofori intended to deflect the spotlight of accountability in his office.
He had filed charges, had he not?
Oh, but you should be looking at the timing of many of these things. And you should understand that we are dealing with a politician. We are dealing with a politician who privileges strategy.
And 6 others.
We are dealing with a politician who privileges strategy over the core mandate of his office. And that is critical. And so these are issues of integrity. Can you trust such a person? Absolutely no. Alfred, the third point. Manasseh Azura-Awuni and his colleagues have been fantastic as far as the issue of the SML is concerned. They are raising issues about the failure of the special prosecutor to have issued a stop notice. And what is his defense? Oh, he is the president's cousin, and the president had granted him permission to travel. Are you kidding me? You have been set up by the laws of this country. You are given special powers to operate. Even if President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had granted permission for Ken Ofori to travel, nothing stopped you as special prosecutor from indicating to the president in an official correspondence that he is a subject of interest when it comes to ongoing investigations that you are conducting, and for which reason the president should be minded to withdraw his grant of permission to travel. Did he do that?
Said National Security even cleared him to travel.
It doesn't matter. But the question I'm asking is that if you feel that they should not have cleared him, did you write to these offices to indicate to either President Nana Akufo-Addo or National Security that this gentleman is a subject of interest in an ongoing investigation? And so, Your Excellency, the decision to grant him permission to travel, you shouldn't have. To the extent that you did, there was no such correspondence to the office. We will not just join you because as a country we have issues with the Akufo-Addo governance to conclude that President Akufo-Addo granted the permission for him to travel so that he could run away. And so we should blame President Akufo-Addo. What did you do as an independent special prosecutor to prevent or to prompt the office of the president that gentleman ought not to have been granted permission, and the permission should be revoked?
So are you discounting the element of the relationship between Ken Ofori and the president?
I am not discounting it.
And the fact
I am not discounting it. And you see, and that is how we lose the essence of the critical questions surrounding the operations of the office of the special prosecutor. It will be in his interest for us to be concentrating on the relationship between President Nana Addo and Ken Ofori, because he knows that Ghanaians were appalled and are still appalled by that chemistry. But I am not going to dwell on that. I'll give President Akufo-Addo the benefit of the doubt and begin to ask the questions that we are all not asking. If you are a special prosecutor and the president has granted permission to a minister to travel or a former appointee, what prevents you? Did you write a letter to the president telling the president that, look, don't allow Ken to travel because we are having an investigation? You did not. So you cannot now be claiming that you did not do anything because he's the president's cousin. You should have written a letter. If the president has said no to the letter, we would have agreed with you. The decision to say no was based on the fact that they are related. Until that is done, you did absolutely nothing. Again, this is a special prosecutor who addressed the press and indicated to us that as a result of the ongoing investigations, they have been able to more or less save the nation in excess of 2.7 billion. That would have been lost as a result of the merged SML transactions. That was where their running battles with Manasseh started. Interestingly, Manasseh puts the figure around $500 million or more. Now the question is, where is the source of that $2.7 billion the special prosecutor made references to?
Well, they put out a document that details that. We'll get into it because
and just yesterday, their yearly review, they have gone back to the Manasseh figure, and they have said that it should be about $500 million, over $500 million, and $500 million. So I think around 5.13 billion Ghana cedis or so. So they have gone back to the Manasseh figure. Then we begin to ask the question: what actually is happening in that office, and what informs even their public engagements? After these are critical questions we must ask. And for me, even the bid.
Still petitions for its removal.
Yeah. So you see, Alfred, you see, so it dovetails into the relevance of us continuing to keep that office. And let me do that briefly. I think it was established somewhere in 2018 or 2019. And the bedrock, 2018. Yes, 2018. And the bedrock of his formation was about independence. Now we had Martin Alamisi Amidu, a senior comrade who was appointed as the first special prosecutor. In less than a year or so in office, he came out to tell all of us. I remember that year, that was during the 2020 elections. Yeah. We were around the Karga constituency with His Excellency President Mahama when the news broke of his resignation. And he told all of us that he had decided to resign because he was convinced that His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo then was attempting to interfere with his independence. And that he was convinced that Nana Addo actually is the mother serpent of corruption as far as the Ghanaian democratic dispensation is concerned. And said bye to us. He also enumerated difficulties that were deliberately placed on his way that made it very difficult to work as an independent office. Now, today, Kisi is also telling us the same thing. He also says that, look, other state institutions are not cooperating. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo made it practically impossible for him to be independent. Then it brings us to the question that is that office truly independent and is it necessary? These are the questions we should ask. Is it truly independent and is it really necessary, Alfred? Because you see, for me, if I look at the composition and the stature of that office in our politics today, I feel that the office is more obstructive to our quest for accountability rather than helping the fight. For example, the SML case. Now the Attorney General's office, their hands will be tied. They cannot be seen dealing with the same case because the SML, the Office of Special Prosecutor, is already dealing with it. Meanwhile, issues of political accountability will be on the doorstep of the Attorney General. Ghanaians are demanding accountability from him. So I do not think in the first place that the office was relevant. Secondly, it's been more than 5 years since its establishment. It is only proper that we take stock and begin to assess whether indeed it is an office we should still continue to have and continue to fund using our limited resources as a country. Especially when it is clear that it is rather obstructive to the fight against corruption.
But Mensano, would you say this office is obstructing the fight against corruption based on what they themselves have put out over the period? And this I ask because of the references that Hamza, Martin Kpebu, and then also Solomon make, that if you are unable to exercise your functions because of the position that a president takes about a particular individual, which then prevents you from doing what you have to do, then how much of an impact would you have in the fight against corruption? Because essentially nobody is supposed to stop you from doing your work.
Well, yes, very absolutely important points that have been raised. Let me take a step back and start by saying that I think we are all very keen that Ken Ofori Atta comes to answer questions. And there was an earlier comment which seemed to suggest that I was trivializing that. That was never my point. I think I just didn't want to continue on the trajectory of the debate between Martin and the OSP. Yeah. I mean, these are persons I know. I didn't want to continue that trajectory. But Ken must come back and answer. And all of us are very, very, very keen about that. I think that it is also important to remember how this office was set up. In the initial days when a few of us, I mean, apart from working on Act 959, because we looked at the situation where very few high-profile persons, at a point where there was a lot of impunity, were being held accountable. And so we thought that the separation between the Minister of Justice, Attorney General, having somebody who is not so tied up with the government of the day that the person is uninclined to follow up where there are issues that affect appointees. And let's not forget that there are a number of cases, including the one about the plane, where it's a government is it agent one or so, that these are high-profile cases that
Government
have been
official one.
Ghana government official one, that have been handled during the period of this, apart from the Cecilia Dapa and other cases. It seems to me that our expectations of that office have been high from the first day. A number of us visited in the first year when Mr. Martin Alamasi Ben Kaiser Midu was there. There were only 3 seconded staff, himself and his deputy. And we even were part of the team that went in looking at the building that they were going to be assigned around GIJ. About a year and a half later, the place was run down, almost broken. To all extents and purposes, it took till, I think, about 2023 before they had a building worth talking about, and to the end of, I think, last quarter 2023, before then they had permission to then recruit, I think, about 200 staff. 249. So to all extents and purposes, it's from the year 2024 that we could say that this office has been properly established. The individuals that have been put at the helm of affairs, citizen vigilante was my number one. Anytime I was like, yeah, that's Martin. When he suddenly said that he was going to exit, and the reasons he gave, some seemed to tie to the previous president and how people would stand for corruption and all, I was hugely disappointed. But there's a sense in which I think until that office has gotten to the point where, in terms of its ability to work with the courts and other agencies and to deliver, the occupant of the office understands that they have the protections, they have the capacity to do what the law has mandated them to do without fear or favor, we still may have some issues. And so these are relevant questions. I think that institution building doesn't happen overnight. And perhaps because it is work in progress, we are seeing some gaps that could be addressed. I've listened to my compatriots, and in some of the instances, I have difficulty because in following the chronology, I understand that the office was just trying to do the best they can. If I take Ken being expected on the 2nd of June, and he didn't appear, and then they wrote to the chief of staff to put out the red alert, red notice. On the 13th of June, they raid SML offices and discover additional information that makes them think, we can make our case stronger. And then subsequent to the 13th or so, the AG now writes saying, can you give us names of people to join our team, as well as give us the docket to work on. And then the SP responds saying that, a few days ago, we raided SML. We've uncovered more information that will make our charges stronger, etc., etc. Therefore, the names of the people to join you are A and B. But with regard to the docket, we need to do some more work because we believe we can make this a stronger case when we are filing it. I clearly, in my mind, in understanding the issues, think that the office is doing its best. I think that it is fair to demand more. I think it is fair to raise issues where we think that the occupant has made statements that may not be factual. But at the same time, I think that we should remember that this is an institution that is still being built. It hasn't reached its zenith, unlike many other of its compatriots that have existed over a long period. Really, they have been there, let's say, for 2024, 2025, probably in real essence about 3 years. A good time for a review to see what else can be done, because in my view, we still need an independent special prosecutor who can take up issues of this nature.
I see. Now, Manasseh, I'm going to come to you, but I just need a quick response from you, Martin Kpebu. There's a question from one of our viewers. Dr. Kwame Asante says, with the special prosecutor going to court with these 78 charges, in the absence of Ken Ofori-Atta, does this not amount to the trial in absentia that he had been not considering, or he had not been considering all the while? I think that's what you wanted to say.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
you remember lawyer Thaddeus Ofori was one of the first when this matter came up about ending of January. Thaddeus Ofori was clear in his mind. Let's go for trial in absentia. Then later, a number of us joined. But they kept stalling. That's why I said, as they kept stalling, I remember last week I mentioned to you that then I got credible information that Ofori-Atta is trying to get a permanent residence card in the US. So people are entitled to read in between the lines. Was Kisi Eja been stalling to give Ofori-Atta more time to be able to get a permanent residence card? Because it doesn't make sense. You see Manasseh's investigations. Kisi Eja didn't start the investigations the whole of 2024. You see the email Manasseh brought. It shows that they started 2025. And you know, when we went to the oral committee, we got evidence, and I mentioned it here earlier in the year, that he was suppressing the cases. So the cases that will make MPP bad, he was suppressing them. Look, it's not only this SML matter that would involve Ken Ofori-Atta and Sakori. The Kingsley, former executive secretary of the scholarship secretary. Yeah, he suppressed it so that Kingsley could go through elections and beat Atta. He suppressed it. It's a matter in court now, and it's one of the grounds we'll be using for his removal.
Because this was an issue that came up within the week when the special prosecutor responded to a post you had put out earlier. They gave now subsequently a breakdown of this $2.7 billion after you also raised a challenge that there is really no document that details this $2.7 billion that it says it has saved from this SML deal. I'm going to put the response of the Special Prosecutor's Office on the screen, right? And whether it answers the question of the source that you were talking about. This is it. They say, following the earlier announcement that Ghana saved over $1.2 billion from the cancellation of the main SML revenue assurance contract, there is an additional savings from the upstream and mineral sector components of the agreement. These contracts, which were based on a variable fee structure linked to exports of crude oil and gold, would have cost the state approximately $173 million. For crude oil, $2.6 billion for gold exports over 5 years. SML did not work as the arrangement coincided with the KPMG audit. Owing to the criminal investigation by the Office of Special Prosecutor and the subsequent cancellation by the President, Ghana has now avoided these further costs. Estimated export per month, and then crude and gold, they break it down, compensation due to service provider, compensation payable per month, and then compensation payable per year, all totaling almost $2.7 billion. And I said, that's what the special prosecutor put out to answer the question about where they were getting that $2.7 billion from, as against your $500 million that you were asking for. Does he answer the question for you? Manasseh.
Alfred, if you look at that figure, it says 2.6, let's say 2.6.
2,626,354,864 Ghana cedis. Yes.
Cedis. The figure I contested from the OSP said $2.7 billion. That is about 30 billion Ghana cedis. So the question we should be asking the OSP is, how can we now move from $2.7 billion or 30 billion cedis to 2.6 billion cedis? I think the honorable thing for the office to do is just to apologize to the people of Ghana that we put out a figure that said this contract sum was $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion is 30 billion Ghana cedis. I tried to engage them privately. They argued, and I had to put this out and put evidence backing the claim that this contract was worth about a little over $500 million for the entire duration. Akufo-Addo's administration, led by the president, asked KPMG to do the audit. The external price verification and the transaction audit components were cancelled after the KPMG report. The upstream and downstream did not take effect. At the time the OSP finished its investigation, the only payment that was being made to SML was the downstream audit contract, which amounts to $1.6 million a year. So even if we had to take the $500 million, by the time the OSP investigation ended, 2 components had been cancelled, some had been suspended, and this is how much we're paying: $1.6 million to SML in a month. So what you have read and put out there only confirms what I said, that the OSP peddled falsehood when it said it saved Ghana $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion is equivalent to 30 billion Ghana cedis. Now they've put a figure there, what you've read, that talks about 2.6 billion cedis. 2.6 billion cedis is not the same as 2.6 billion, 30 billion cedis. And I just want to draw your panelists' attention to something very important. And I want to disagree with those who are thinking that these issues are trivial. Let us just allow everything to pass. In the fight against corruption, the character and integrity of the fighter or the institution are as important as competence. The credibility in that institution is very key. The Fourth Estate petitioned the OSP in 2024. It wanted to publish the National Service investigation, and then people went to court to place an injunction on it. So even before publishing, the Fourth Estate petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate. We go to 2025, a new administration comes, there is oral. And the Fourth Estate takes that same petition to oral. And oral has acted, the Attorney General and Yoko have acted on the National Service investigation very swiftly, and we are seeing what is coming out of that. I'm not looking at the substance. Why would someone take a petition from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which is independent, which is not political, and take it to the very institutions that we felt were not adequately equipped or empowered or independent to fight corruption? It talks about some loss of trust and loss of credibility in that office. And I know people who are so disappointed, not because they are politicians, but because they have serious issues. This Ken Ofori matter we are all talking about, one point we are forgetting is all of this controversy would not have arisen had the Office of the Special Prosecutor proceeded to begin the investigation in 2023 December, when Evans Aziamo Mensah, Ajua Adubi Owusu, and I petitioned that office. Alfred, I'm saying to all Ghanaians, and there is evidence to this effect, that the Office of the Special Prosecutor did not start the SML investigation in 2023. the whole of 2024, the Office of the Special Prosecutor did not start the SML investigation. It only started the SML investigation in 2025, January 29, 2025, by which time Ernest Akori had left, by which time Ken Ofori had left the country. So in all this discussion, the question is, on what basis would anybody have stopped Ken Ofori or Ernest Akori when the OSP had not started the investigation? Let me tell you, I have cited the diary of entries of the SML investigation. This is an OSP document. When they are doing the investigation, there's a diary that records what happens. That diary, the first entry on the SML investigation, page 1, is dated 29th January 2025. And the time is 12:40 p.m.
I see.
That was when the first entry. It is titled Diary of Action Taken.
The diary of actions taken.
OSP. Yes.
And you said this is a document you got from the Special Prosecutor's Office?
I am unable to tell you how I got it,
Okay.
but this is from the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Okay, we have a copy of it. Let me state, is this what you're talking about? We're going to put that on the screen right now. This diary of action is exclusive to Key Point this morning, and put
Yes.
it on record that
That may be what I'm
this is
talking
the
about.
document. This is the diary of action you talk about. 29th, 12:40 p.m., 29th of
January
2025.
2025.
Yes.
That is when the first entry on the SML matter was made. And you can see the summary of the case. Then you come to the next date, which is 30th January. There is something like Team A. And I just want to read that part because it is short. Please proceed with the preliminary investigation needs and prepare an investigation plan and identify the persons of interest we will need to interview. And there's a word that I cannot I cannot read because, and something departments and appropriate departments and agencies to provide information. This is 30th January 2025. And it says proceed with the preliminary investigation. But let me go back to the KSM.
So that is it. Into which argument it is obvious say Kindufurata and in the counterparts, those involved are OSP no why issue manhunt for them now. They are not willing to come because it is clear. Say no obia open nipa no wunya no anase obi a wo hwehwe na nipa no obey na adwin se omba no. It tells you something. And in this case I Kindufurata the case no, I've been saying say NDC as a government, they are not serious in this matter. They are not serious in dealing with Kindufurata's issue. Do you know why? Adeɛ baako a ebema NPP and as ebema NDC in 2028 elections. And say even when they win power, that margin now modi EBT MPP in the last election. No. Hey, so betty, I'm telling you, so betty papa. Because you told Ghanaians, say moba, nama modi the operation recover all loot, no abeye juma. Na untimi nka operation recover all loot without saying say Kinofrata must be arrested and prosecuted. You get me right? You can't talk about Operation Recover All Loot without what? Arresting Kinofrata. And yet meet no kurumha Emma America aban ebechi ye nkrofo e de omu firi hanom eko prosecute omo. Classical example Kofi Boat America aban esuma Interpol ema omo befa Kofi Boat de ne koye ai na me no kase owa America o face jail terms and as a prosecution. So what has happened now? Edi adekodie nko na asia edi adekodie nko na sebi asie ai no Emma Kinofrata Ghana yintimi nko hono enkoche Kinofrata mfane mba na umbigina mra nanim ade ade na esie. You see ade a ekoso no, it is either deliberate or what? Ignorant. Some people for enhye da enka Kinofrata bra omo be handi power in January no Kinofrata kokra then chief of staff Maami Frima Opare se oko America. Se na nye deliberate a esi den ena aban esesa na enya nsesa nwie na mutimima the key minister, the key factor in that government, somebody like finance minister Otimi Tukwan wamreko a owo all the access to finance omoka saying issues and as a finance assistance finance ministry ho no na okita bibia na mohwe manipa no otukwan keke se enye deliberate na se enye ignorant na se enye hypocrisy. I don't think such thing will happen. Intermediate maker obi kan asem wo afutuo bi atubafo anyo obi ba na okutunufo me ka kire ndisi for 2028 no emu ntweon achaye ko 2026. It is simple as ABC. Se mo pese mo retain mu members of parliament no na even mo gi more seat, you people should deal with Kinofrata and the other corporates. Se mo pese mo yeden mo gi seat no na mo retain that margin no and even add more, you people should take Operation Recover All Loot serious. Se mo pese mutimi tena in power, you people should fight Galamsey to the core. And this is not the first time Mega I am saying this. I've been saying this for countless time on several occasions. Say adie bi wo honom na se mo ya am say wo aban nti no tim be kutu na utim ayo dedede. But say embre nduru honom say ye ko na ye kwa akoto abana. Hono na nkofo be sha se afa sebi akasamu afa camera kasamfonyin ni de kan ka ho atena so na oma refer mu ade amaye. It is a mompese side libisia. It is simple as ABC. You have all the the logistics, you have all the access to deal with Kinofrata. Either he has acquired citizenship for American or whatever. Mubiti prosecute no because Kofi Boat ye Ghana ni and umbefa na koi. Now when American ni umbefa na koi so muko prosecute no. So I don't see the reason why you can't go for Kinofrata. Mpefo se wo ye ni yanka wanim etiye. Nti esi na Kinofrata ade kituo ibere bi ya no a wo se wo mba. So waye ade papa and I don't think say by now and ko nyam by nka wabata dada. But because of so no anim de waye a enyi nti no, he is running away from what? Investigation and prosecution. So the why doing communication in Mahanum remains your number one authentic platform negative. Nyakopon show bibia na on happy new weekend. What you say?